Hey there, hi there, ho there, it's Ralph Junior, RHJunior Reality Check Live, coming to you live over the internet through a system of tubes known as YouTube, imitating the boob tube, coming to you with a little broadcast I like to call Spleen Squeezins. 2, 3, 4. Scooby Dooby Dooby. Yeah, I'm cruising along. I'm doing a little this, doing a little bit of that, feeling pretty cheerful because I almost feel like I accomplished something today. Didn't do a darn thing. Actually this morning I finally finished up the next two chapters of a couple of fan fictions, which everybody has been saying, when are you going to update your fan fictions? So I'm like, today. So there you go. There's two of them. Stop bothering me. Give me a break. But seriously though, I'm very happy to have those things up. Have them up. Have people happy to see those. Yeah. And also looking at the news, looking at the news, looking at the blues, looking at all the little clues, all the little things that are going on out in the world today. Let's randomize this soundtrack, okay? That way we get a little something different each time. I'm sort of tired of listening to the same songs over and over and over, but copyright. Speaking of which, YouTube, aka you pathetic peons working as wage slaves under Google. You remember when Google's slogan was "Don't be evil"? That was their mission statement. That was in their mission statement. Don't be evil. They consider that unprofitable, apparently. As they consider that a poor approach to business nowadays. Speaking of which, we'll talk about that later. Business approaches. They've been hitting me up. I've been getting hit up with copyright claims. I've been every now and then I've had to go and I'm disputing them. Every bumble twat who comes out, every bumble twit out there who's made themselves a transcendental yoga meditation tape or something. Look, I'll play sound effects, rainstorms and random rainstorm and bird music stuff, and every transcendental twit in the internet will try and claim that this is from my recording, birds in harmony with nature, and and try and hit me up with a copyright claim. I use music strictly from the YouTube audio library, and I get hit up with copyright claims all the time. Well, this is from my mixtape from 94, and I'm just crap, and I'm putting all these. I'm just gonna start hitting them up. I only use the copyright-free stuff from YouTube, a-holes. That's what it's going to take. I'm just going to have to start. I've just been passively disputing them, sitting here, letting them run through the process. But now I'm just going to start just being Look, they don't feel obligated to be. These people who actually do steal people's copyrighted stuff feel no obligation to be nice and polite. Why should I feel obligated to be nice and polite to people who are falsely accusing me? They're that lazy. They use some 2-bit, downloaded it off their friend's Ware's site software to skim through YouTube looking for stuff that sounds vaguely similar to the bland electronic noises they made on a tape last week, so that they can hit them up for a copyright. It's just patent trolling. It's patent trolling, only it's copyright trolling for musicians. It's just crap. It's a load of nonsense, a load of bullcrap. YouTube is not interested in protecting people's copyrights. It's not interested in protecting freedom of speech or press or anything else. It's only interested in the bottom, the bottom line, the top dollar, and pandering to the people it thinks are the social influencers. And they don't think that the little guy counts. So, come raging forward and line up to kiss my flabby white buttocks, I've had enough of them. Had enough. Let's see, here's a new Tarzan. Okay, that is under the 5 seconds time limit, so it is not copyrighted. Let go. Unclench your butts. Add to my soundboard. Log in. Okay. It's like 3 attempts. Add it to my soundboard. Thank you. Doesn't really sort these things. When I add a new button to my soundboard, it doesn't really sort them. It just sort of randomly plugs them in there. So it takes me a minute to find the buttons that I just added. And so tell us, Ralph, how many buttons do you have on your My Instance page with different sound effects?
It's over 9,000!
You don't say. Did you count them? We'll take that as a yes. So the weekend was fairly productive. I managed to add a couple comic strips. Added a new Camp Calamine strip, and I feel pleased that it had a sort of information on animal life kind of theme going for it. And I also managed to add a new strip to Nip and Tuck. Of course, it was just another fart joke. And I also managed to add a new chapter to The Rise of Darth Vulcan. And a little short chapter to The Great Alicorn Hunt.
The dark side of the Force is calling you.
Interesting. I can't just get a...
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. The Force is strong in this one.
Every time I think of a new title, I got new stuff to add to my soundboard here. Add to my soundboard. Okay, there we go. There we go. Thank you very much. Let's see. And now I'm thinking of all these things. I'm thinking photon torpedo. Oh yeah, that's definitely got to go on there. They used to have these things that they were little panels of buttons you could add to your dashboard of your car. It had things like death ray, heat-seeking missile, photon torpedo. You know, just stress button. Don't know how you don't really know how good they were at relieving stress, but there you go. It's let's see if they have V'ger. They don't have V'ger sound. They don't have those. It's going to take some hunting to find that particular sound effect. I'm thinking a brrrr sound that was made as blong, you know. Star Trek transporter, Star Trek red alert, Star Trek cable guy, Star Trek, no,
Red alert.
Ah well. Anyway, back to business. And the stupid things scrolling. I really hope somebody shows up because being all alone sucks. Anyway, let's see here. What was I working on? Okay, among other things, I wanted to work on the homunculus commissions for Wildwire Weasel. Stop it. I hate you. Advice. Okay. Okay, and why is this supposed to be window capture? It's supposed to be okay, hold on. There we go. Slideshow. Back to slideshow. But anyway, I'm waiting for somebody to show up because otherwise I feel fruitless. I feel poopless, dopeless, hoopless, hopeless, hula hoopless. Now, I sent off my Christmas gifts to everybody. 3 generic Christmas cards. I feel so festive. It's really all I could get anybody. I have this bulk box of generic holiday seasons greetings cards. It's got a the leafy Christmas thingy on the front, and inside it says Happy Holidays, and I signed it and sent it off. One to my parents, one to my sister and her husband, and one to my niece and her husband. Viola, done. Because I ain't got no money. It's poor planning on my part. That's my fault. But among other things I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be moving. I have several books that I'm publishing through Kablam.com. They are selling very, very, very slowly. Kablam.com was there for me before Amazon even had digital book publishing or free publishing process. So, I'll give them that. They were the first, but I make something like a couple of bucks for every $20 comic they sell, and maybe 10 cents for every 99-cent download, that kind of thing. And it's just no. I'm going to move to Amazon.com. I'm going to move to Amazon. I'm going to move all my books to Amazon. Make them available as digital books. So some of the books need updated. I just got to get the PDF forms and install them on Amazon, and I'm basically fumbling my way through it. Whenever I do something new, I always take forever to do it because I'm like, I move forward by inches doing it, even when sitting down and just pushing it all the way through for a day. Because I've found that when I try and sit down and just get that doing something new like that, getting into a new program, new method of publishing or anything like that, if I try and sit down and get it all done at once, I don't get anything done anyway, because I keep having to go back and correct things and redo things and resend things, and it's always an ordeal. So I've gotten very gun shy about proceeding with things. So I sort of it's like somebody playing checkers and moving one piece per day. That's me when I first start out on a new over the internet system of doing something. Now, among other things, the Camp Calamine book, I've got to add several pages to it. I've got to change some pages on the Tales of the Questor books, and actually on all of them. And then I've got to, and that means I have to edit the PDFs. I have to get the PDF files together, edit the PDF files, remove page. I hate PDF format, by the way. I just absolutely hate it, because the bastards that made it, they made it so proprietary. You can't work with it. You can't edit it. You can't correct it. You can't unless you spend several $100s on their highly proprietary software. Or unless you manage to you roll the dice and risk everything on some freeware or shareware someplace that supposedly lets you edit PDFs, and you download it and you open it up and you can't make sense or heads or tails of it, and it doesn't have the features that you need or that it said it does, and even if it works at all, PDF is just a headache. And if the internet had any sense, we'd round up the people from Adobe and just punt them in the jimmies over and over again as recompense for what they have done to the supposedly streamlining system of computer technology. They're greedy. They're scum. When you make a piece of software and you manage to basically blackmail everybody into use it, and then you charge if they were charging 1/10 what they are, they'd still be as rich as sultans. In fact, they'd be richer because more people would be willing to buy it. The greedy and the stupid don't quite get that. But anyway, that's my rant against PDF format. You got these idiots who tried to proprietarize. They tried to they tried to copyright the GIF format. Like, you jerks, you greedy jerks. one of the big problems with society. One of the big problems with society is that the people the people that get into our economy. Think about it. How many of them they start out in public? Where do they start out? Public school, where they're basically educated by communists. This is where robber barons come from. They do not come from a capitalistic society. The robber barons we have in our society, they're people who have left the public school system after 12 to 16 years of being educated by dyed-in-the-wool socialists. They go out, they get out into the real world, and they try to run a capitalist society the way they were taught it works by communist teachers. Which is the equivalent of trying to drive a car based upon lessons you got from Krusty the Clown about how to drive a bumper car at the carnival. It's like trying to fly a plane based upon lessons you got on how to drive a tractor. It doesn't work. Or worse, or driving a car down the street based on your past as a based on driving lessons you got from your dad while he was drunk after a week of demolition derby. This is not how it works. You get these people, they get out into the economy, and they think because teacher taught them that in order to be successful capitalists they have to be absolute bastards, that this is how a capitalist system works. This is and so they go out and they raise prices and lower quality and cheat their customers and cheat their employees and cheat one another, and then they get rich for a while, and then it implodes underneath them, and they can't figure out why. We got people trying to run a capitalist society who were raised by socialists. What a surprise we have robber barons running amok in it. Please, is there anybody out there? Is there anybody? Somebody, anybody? It's 3:30 right now. I figure everybody will start tuning in at about 4. I'm just going to talk at random here. I've got nothing better to do than talk at random. Just nothing else. Look. Okay, let's talk about movies. Let's talk about movies. The Mortal Engines. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it already. It's out in theaters. Okay, I read the first book in the series that this movie was based off of. I read it. And even back then, I couldn't quite figure out what the socialist message was. I was looking at it too closely. Or I was expecting them not to be quite so subtle. I don't know. I couldn't quite grasp it. I feel kind of stupid in retrospect, looking back at it. The message, I went into it. I figured, oh geez, there's going to be some anti-capitalist, anti-democratic, pro-socialist utopia message in this. And in retrospect, it's fairly obvious. I had to step back. What's the story about? It's about big cities devouring little cities. The intended social, it's obvious, is that the intended social message of Mortal Engines is the idea that this is how the rich and powerful survive by cannibalizing the weak. That the strong devour the weak. That big, powerful civilizations devour little ones. This is what they're talking about when they say cultural imperialism. It's supposed to be a portrayal of cultural imperialism. Big, powerful empires devouring helpless little communities. This is what they're talking about when they talk about cultural imperialism. This is what they're talking about when they talk about big corporations running small town businesses out of business, and this big crybaby fest they have over that. This is how they see the world. This is how they see capitalism, as the strong devouring the weak. It's actually the sum of their grand narrative. It's how they turn what is inherently a message of envy, spite, greed, and covetousness into a message of, oh, we poor little victims are being picked upon by the rich and powerful. They disguise it as a tragic story of victimization, portraying prosperous people and prosperous civilizations as all-devouring monsters. And it sells because to the ignorant, government-educated masses, the actual machinery of capitalism and how wealth is made are as cryptic as anything you care to name. They're indecipherable as ancient hieroglyphics. They cannot conceive of the idea that large civilization, big, wealthy, powerful companies, big, wealthy, powerful civilizations, big, wealthy, powerful individuals got that way by giving the little people what they want and need. They can't conceive of that idea. They can't grasp it. They can't see it even though they watch it happening. Because it does not fit their narrative of every rich person being a big, huge, scary, evil Donald Trump who goes around eating babies. There are people that do operate like that, but these are not capitalists. They're thieves, they're pirates, they're plunderers. The real situation around the world is not the big and powerful devouring the small and weak. It's teeming hordes of the parasitical tearing the big, productive, and powerful apart one bite at a time. They're like a child presented with a picture of an aquarium or of the ocean, and they see a giant whale go swimming by, and they think that the big whale is the one that eats all the other little ones, and then a pack of orcas come out of nowhere and devour the huge whale one bite at a time. They cannot conceive of the idea of the little guy being the predator. I remember reading a science fiction story once. Colonists landed on a planet, and the two major problems they have these big, huge carnivorous predators and these little monkey creatures that are everywhere. And the big, scary-looking monster predators eat the little monkey creatures like candy. And the little monkey creatures are harmless and friendly and playful, and humans start adopting them as pets, and this causes a little conflict with great big scary monsters, and the great big scary monsters start coming after the colonists, going into the colonies and attacking, trying to get at the little monkey people, at the little monkey creatures rather, like coyotes going after house cats. Well, anyway, they don't realize the colonists start obliterating these huge, dangerous predators, trying to make their colony safe. They don't realize until it's too late that, first of all, the little monkey creatures breed like mad, and second of all, when their population density gets to a certain level, they turn carnivorous, and they go from being passive and harmless to being like a little pack of piranhas, and they attack the nearest living thing to them, which in this case was the colonists. That's, paint a picture, if you will, of the big bad evil everybody who was out to destroy the big bad evil robber barons and the corporations, and cuddle the helpless little dependent socialists. And now the socialists are swarming and devouring our society one bite at a time. That's what that mob that came up through Mexico and tried to cross our border was all about. They figured they were going to get in and get a free meal. When they weren't let in, they actually had the gall to stand out there and make demands that America pay them off to go back home. I want to see one movie. I want to see one movie where the big powerful corporation is the good guy, and the ones trying to tear it down are the bad guys. I want to see one where the person, the company, there's this big company. It's led by a man who started from the grassroots up and who worked, started out in a garage and worked his way up and made this huge successful company that employs millions and provides services and goods to tens of millions of people. And his enemies are these little parasites, trying to tear him down like a pack of piranha going after a villager trying to swim a river. Realistic. They tried to make. They made a movie version of Atlas Shrugged. I think they made it into a trilogy, actually, either a duology or a trilogy. But it's out there and you can watch it. But ain't nobody gonna put it out in the theaters regular like. Didn't make the impact that they hoped, I don't think. Say what you will about Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand was a provocative philosopher, a thinker, an object. She invented the concept of objectivism, which basically would have been called in any other age common sense. That what you observe is real. That A equals A. That facts and figures matter more than wishful thinking and hopeful desires. She had her sins and flaws, but she was a human being. Surprise, surprise. It's amazing how unforgiving the typical people can be of the opposition to their ideals. They didn't give a rat's behind that Clinton was a raping, philandering, sexually harassing sleaze. Now they're going into the screaming vapors over Donald Trump. Steaming hypocrites. The ultimate definition of hilarious hypocrisy. Miley Cyrus complaining that Donald Trump portrays women in a demeaning fashion. Man, Miley Cyrus, what the hell happened? I mean, she was, she had a Disney show, she was a singer, she was Hannah Montana, she had talent, and she made some darn pretty songs. In fact, one of her songs, The Climb, is one of my favorites. It was one of my favorites. And she turned 18 and just lost her damn mind. She tried to be the next Madonna, is what it is. And Madonna was crass enough when she first did her thing. Crass. But Miley Cyrus actually managed. She tried to be as classy as Madonna was and failed. Talk about missing the lowest possible bar. You did not look at Miley Cyrus and go, whoa. You looked at Miley Cyrus and went, ugh. That is, what the hell with that tongue thing? I came in like a wrecking ball. Okay, now we got 2 people in here. I got 2 people in my chat room. I've got 2. 1, 2. I see them right there. Say your names, people. Those are the rules. Those are the rules. If you're gonna watch, go to the chat room, type your name. Hey, it's Ben Shakar here. Am I pronouncing that correct? And does anybody care if I'm not? Think about it. It just people just there was actually a woman who named her baby ABCD. Just there's a parental abuse lawsuit in waiting in the wings right there. And I forget how she said it had to be pronounced. Oh my. Anyway, I was talking about, okay, Ben Shakar. And who is our other guest today in our teeming studio audience? of two people. Talk to us. Speak with us. You're one of us now. Say something. Seriously, say anything. I'd just like to know the chat room's working. Thank you. Come on. We will find you. We can track you down by your scent of fear. We can follow the scent. Well, maybe. Well, maybe we don't want to. Okay, that would put a bloodhound off it. All right. Yes. Now, okay, and once again, is the music too loud? Is the music too soft? I'm tweaking it, I'm twiddling with it, I'm adjusting it, I'm volume controlling it. Is my voice too loud? Is the music too soft? I know this is an unusual question. Nobody who works professionally in radio has to ask this question of the audience. You know, they got the equipment. They got the equipment there. They can fiddle-faddle and hear exactly what they sound like over the radio, but it doesn't work for me. Anyway, like I was saying earlier, in case you missed it, I've got a new chapter of The Rise of Darth Vulcan out. Got a new chapter of The Great Alicorn Hunt out. It's a little short. The Alicorn Hunt one is a little short chapter, not very much to it. But, you know, it's an update, so there you go. I've also made a point, I'm putting a note in there, you know, on each of my stories, you know, check out my regular stuff. I'm seriously thinking of just moving all my stuff over to my, I'm thinking of moving all my stuff over to my Patreon page. The strips, everything. Well, maybe not the, you know, the stories, they really wouldn't fit there. You know, the written stories, but the comic strips and the art and the pictures and everything, just put them all on the Patreon page. That way they'd all be together in one place, and also, you know, more people would be encouraged to, you know, oh, he's on Patreon. He has some content that requires payment. I shall donate $1 monthly, therefore I shall have full access. You know. And it's Ben Shakar and Archangel Primal Core. It's Archangel Primer Cord. Don't set him off. No, wait. His name's not Primal Core, it's Primer Cord. Don't set him off.
Bazinga.
Okay. Okay, are those sound effects coming through? Okay, coincidentally, I am always taking commissions and stuff. And frankly, I'm doing it once again. I need to fix dinner. I need to get something for dinner. I've been sitting here. I haven't eaten any. Let's see. I had some breakfast, which was basically just reheated sloppy Joe mix and crackers. I'm a terrible cook. I gotta decide on what I think. I'm probably gonna end up something. Maybe some chicken noodle soup. I don't know. Maybe some soupy. I'm looking at the soupy end of the scale for simplicity's sake. See, I had my mom sent me this ages ago. She sent me a canister of this instant mocha cappuccino. I'm not a coffee drinker at all, really. But you throw enough mocha anything and all those other flavors on top, I'll knock it back a little bit. And she gave me this, oh, you want this? And I'm like, oh, okay, it's got a little mocha in it, it's just, and I have a canister of hot cocoa mix, and it's about right now it's about half hot cocoa mix and half instant mocha mix. So it'll really get me started in the morning. Half mocha cappuccino mix. It's hot cocoa macchiato. I've always wondered what would happen if you took like cocoa, the way they process cocoa beans, if they took coffee beans and processed them the same way, what you'd get. I don't mean add coffee to white chocolate like some of these people do. No. I'm not talking chocolate-covered coffee beans. I'm talking take the coffee bean, process it exactly the same way you do a cocoa bean. Don't know what you'd call it, but I bet it'd be a very interesting flavor. I bet it'd be something entirely unexpected. Because you got to realize that originally cocoa, chocolate, was a bitter, strong, peppery drink. They added pepper, but generally speaking, overall, it was just basically very similar to coffee. And it had, very strong stimulant. And it was also supposed to be an aphrodisiac. The emperor would drink a big old mug of the stuff before he went into his harem. That kind of thing. And then they took the coffee bean, and after a few centuries of tinkering with it, they invented milk chocolate. And it could not possibly be more different from what it was originally. And I'm thinking, tinker with coffee beans the same way, you'd get something that was just as radically different, but possibly delicious. So, you scientific experimental type people out there, is the challenge accepted? Now, I gotta say it's interesting how many of the foods we got that are the result of excessive tampering. Marshmallows. Now, marshmallow candy, originally, you started out, marshmallows were originally a medicine. Bet you didn't know that. Marshmallows, you had the mallow plant, which grew in the marshes. Ta-da. And they used the root to make a syrup that was used to treat sickness. It was a medicine. And then for some reason, somebody started faddling with it, probably because it tasted terrible. Added sugar and cream and a bunch of other things, and they whipped it up into a froth, and voila, the first marshmallow candy. Same story with licorice. Licorice was a medicine, and they took licorice root and they started fiddle-faddling with it, and next thing you know, licorice candy. Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Coca-Cola and original. Cola was original. It was made from a cola nut. It was a syrup. Likewise with Pepsi. Pepsi was originally for, quote, dyspepsia. But they both they started, and the next thing you know, it went from being a medicine to being a syrupy junk food or syrupy drink, a sugary drink, sweet. 7-Up, as I recall, had the same story. It was originally some sort of medicine that got turned into whatever. And here's one for you, gin and tonic. tonic was originally a medicine for treating, I believe, the symptoms of malaria. And Englishmen took to adding gin to it to make it tolerable. It's kind of depressing when you realize how many things on your shelf used to be an actual, a miracle medicine. Don't do nothing now. Of course, a lot of the reason they don't do nothing now is because they don't have, they don't have the original ingredients. You can't find licorice that has actual licorice root in it unless you really go looking. I bet you couldn't find marshmallows made with real marshmallow root. And Coca-Cola, take it for granted. It does not have cola nut, and it certainly doesn't have coca in it. But just make you think, make you wonder. Excuse me. Now, let me think. Oh man, no more ramen. No. I eat too many noodles as it is. Spaghetti and noodles and sauce. I'm probably just gonna make some soup. I just got to get out of this chair, go over there, stick it in the microwave, stand over the microwave. I gotta stand there for 10 minutes to do it. 10, 15 minutes, cook up some soup and have some crackers and call that dinner. Just yummy. Just something plain and simple. I'm debating on whether to have tomato soup or chicken soup. Some nice Progresso brand soup that came in a care package, so it's very nice. It's very lovely. I just like looking at the can, have it sit up on the shelf, make me look healthy. It's the only healthy looking thing in the house, myself included. Now, oh man, it's just messy. I was getting, got this thing here. I'm trying to wipe out. I got some napkins. I'm wiping it out because I gotta put these peanuts away some places. I'm not particularly fond of peanuts, but like anybody else, I'll eat them if they're sitting there and nibble. I like things like I like pecans. Pecans are about the only nut that I really like in lots of. Almonds are okay, but they're heavy. You eat a bunch, you eat a handful of them, and it just sits there like a lump, bloom, in your stomach. So, almonds and nuts like that. There's something you eat with something else, but or in something else. But pecans, they're sort of light. They're light. They're not just crunchy. They're crispy, right? And they don't fill you up as fast. They don't make you feel heavy and bloated if you eat a lot of them. So there you go. I'm a pecan junkie. I like me some pecan pie too. Pecan pie. You ever actually bite into a homemade pecan pie? Because it's got like a pie crust and a crust of pecans on top, and there's pecan jelly in the middle. I'm like, there was one time in my life I sampled a grape pie. It's made with Welch's grape. It was made with purple grapes and sample it once. I was like, oh, Mom, it was a neighbor brought it over. We just moved into a new neighborhood. She brought it over. And, oh, here, try this. And I tried to slice it. Oh, that was so good. And I said, Mom, get that recipe, please. And she didn't. Or she did, and she lost it. And I've looked everywhere for a recipe that reminds me of that grape pie. I never found it. I've always wondered about watermelon pie, too. If you make a watermelon pie. How, what it would taste like. I have to admit that watermelon, I used to like watermelon Kool-Aid. Drink watermelon Kool-Aid now. I find it hard to describe. It's like watermelon flavor, real watermelon. The more, it's more like it's trying to taste like something. If you know what I mean. It's you get a watermelon candy. It's got that nice strong watermelon flavor. You get a strawberry candy too. Same story. You get something with strawberry flavoring in it. You got that strong strawberry flavor. Nom nom nom. But when you actually eat some watermelon or some actual strawberry, even really, really ripe ones, when they're supposed to be the best, they don't have much flavor. You have to add sugar and or whip them up in a recipe to bring that flavor out, and to make it strong enough to stand on its own. But just plain strawberries, no, it just didn't do anything for me. I've noticed that I've gotten older. There's certain fruits that I just can't bother with too much anymore. I've got a bag of apples in the fridge and a bag of little mini oranges in the fridge right now. Little cute oranges, but it's slow going eating them. I'm probably going to, but they're probably going to go bad before I eat half of them, because I've discovered apples and most fruit anymore is just apples, oranges, grapes. It's too acidic, too tart for me, too sour. Bananas, that's bananas are always good. And some berries, yeah, I've hunted around. I really can't, even the real sweet eating apples are just too much tart in the background. If I eat too much, it stirs up my heartburn a little. But yeah. No, I've got little footnotes here. I've got this little notepad program in my computer. I type little notes to myself, stick them up on my computer screen to look at later. Trying to use it more often. Got so many things. You get so many things that sit in your house that you never use for months or years, if at all. But you can't get rid of them because they're perfectly good. You don't want to throw them away. No matter what you do with your stuff, you're being irresponsible with it. You ever notice that? If you keep it, you're a hoarder. If you throw it away, you're a wastrel. No can win. I just thought earlier today, here's an illustration of one of the problems with society today. The EMTs, the EMTs in an ambulance, those guys who, if they have to keep people alive on the way to the hospital, with their bare hands and sheer force of will sometimes. The EMTs, from what I've been told, I asked, I I've had to take several ambulance rides, long ones, and conversation cropped up, and I asked them, these guys, let's put it this way, after adjusting for inflation, they make less per hour than a 1960s burger flipper. The EMTs in an ambulance who keep people alive on the trip to the hospital, after adjusted for inflation, make less per hour than a 1960s burger flipper, while the guy taking the ride has to pay the owners of the ambulance $5,000 or more for the ride. That's like having a taxi driver who's paid in gold. That's like having a taxi driver who's paid in copper pennies, but charges gold ingots for every trip across town. It's not the guys driving who are getting rich. It's not the guys in the back who are getting rich. That's not right. That's what gets me about these people. The people who do unskilled labor have been protesting, wanting their wages raised, and people go, well, ambulance drivers make less. Ambulance drivers don't make $15 an hour. Policemen don't make that much. Fire department don't make that much. Soldiers don't make that much. And I'm like, thank you for admitting that you're a cheapskate to everybody. Why do they use that argument? It's a stupid argument. Don't they realize they're just admitting that it's a shitty wage for anyone? And yes, it's a shitty wage. Look, $15 an hour. That's what adjusted for inflation, that's what it was in 1960. And I've harped on this point over and over again. And I'll keep harping on it. So, the problem isn't that these unskilled laborers, these burger flippers and trash collectors and such, that they're lazy. It's just they're at the bottom rung of the ladder on a sinking Titanic, and they can feel the water lapping at their toes. They're the canary in the coal mine. And they're making literally 10 times as much in actual dollars as their grandfathers did, but they're making, after adjusted for inflation, they're making half in actual money. And everything that they have to buy, like an education to get a better life, costs 400% to 500% more. Look at the price of a car in the 1960s. Look at the price of a car now, even after you adjust for inflation. Look at the price of a house. My trailer cost me $3,000. Had to pull a loan from the bank with my father to pay for it. And it's a dump. It's even before I moved in, it was breaking down. So it's a fixer-upper, Eddie. You can just you can repair these things. No, I can't. But a brand new trailer cost more than a brand new house did back in the 1960s or 70s. And not just again, adjusted for inflation. It's crazy. And the problem is everybody wants to blame the problem on everything but what the problem is. And I'm really tired of people talking about unskilled labor. Well, you should have gotten a better job. I'm sorry. Farmers are technically unskilled labor. Do you want to go up to a farmer and tell them that they don't deserve to make a living at what they do? That they should not be making, this was a bottom rung, that they were supposed to work there for a while and then maybe get up to a level where they could actually survive? Maybe you haven't noticed, but as time goes by, most of the so-called skilled labor of civilization becomes unskilled. As things progress. There was a time that designing a website required some serious elite skills. Now your average 12-year-old can do it. And I don't want people going out there, he said farmers are unskilled or he's insulting farmers. No, I know darn well that farming is difficult, complex, hard work. But by the standards of our society, it is essentially unskilled labor. It's categorized as unskilled labor, rather. Let's put it that way. And I'm sorry to say, most people don't consider the fact that these people that work in these restaurants, they cook, they clean, they provide customer service, they handle the money. At a time being able to do all those things at once, not exactly a pedestrian skill. So make of that what you will. And I'm sorry, but regardless of whether labor is skilled or unskilled, you're doing it because other people find there are two reasons that you do labor for other people is because they find it either better quality done by an expert, or because they find it personally incredibly unpleasant to do themselves. We talk about we we want kids to grow up respecting the value of hard work, and then we spit on people who do some of the hardest, most thankless work around there. And we point to them and we tell our kids, you don't want to end up like them, do you? Kids' pockets are inside out. Yeah, he's got money. Or at least until the day after payday. But it's amazing how much great respect people have for hard-working, unskilled labor until it comes time to pay them. And it's amazing how that category of unskilled suddenly balloons outward. You want us to pay you for this? More than I care to name, artists have had to listen to that crap. You want us to pay you to draw a picture? And you got people that troll through the art and fandom forums. They say, I'm looking for an artist to draw a picture for me for free. Mm-hmm. And then there are actual companies out there. Think of all the exposure you'll get. Oh, yes, exposure. Exposure. Oh, think of all the exposure I'll get. I'll have so many exposure dollars to pay my rent with and to buy groceries with. You know.
Oh yeah, that's the thing of it is that one of the things Adam ruins everything overlooked about that thing. You know about hospitals bumping up the prices and insurance companies bumping up the prices and everything else. Look, in any transaction, you got three participations, three forms of participation. You can be the person buying. You can be the person selling. You can be the person paying for it all. When the person buying isn't the same person as the person paying for it all, prices run amok. Expenditures run amok. Look, if you're told to go to the grocery store and load up the basket, and you're given, what happens when they give you an expense account? What happens when you give somebody an expense account? They try to fit everything on it. Hamburger? Oh no, it's going to be steak tonight. They try and put as much on it as they can, because that's in their best interests. And the money's not coming out of their pocket. The seller, the person selling the hamburger and the steak, is perfectly fine with selling you premium steak on that, so long as it gets paid for. In fact, he'll hike up the price to sweeten the deal for himself, because that's in his personal best interest. Meanwhile, the third guy, the guy that pays for it all, he's either got to wrangle with the company that sells the stuff, or put the thumb screws to the guy who's spending it. No, it's this is why government expenses are so high. This is why this is why welfare is such a boondoggle. Because the people that spend and the people that buy and the people that pay for it all aren't the same. They aren't the same people. They don't even meet in the same room most of the time. Not even really on the same planet, metaphorically speaking. You take somebody who's on take somebody who's been on welfare. Well, my personal example, myself. Up until a couple of months ago, I had a EBT card, food, basically green stamp card, green food stamp card, and green stamp card, food stamp card, and I got close to $200 a month. And I would go out of my way to spend every last dime of it, because it didn't roll over into, generally, sometimes it didn't roll over to the next month. And if you didn't spend all of it, they might decide that you didn't need as much money and lower the amount they gave you in later months. So I was spending $200. Now that I'm off the card, I'm having to be kind of really careful about what money I spend on food. I'm having, it's become my responsibility to be careful about, where I put my money down and what I buy, and I got to try and make it last. But do you understand where I'm going here? Because the money I'm spending is mine. So I'm going to be more careful about how I spend it. Not much careful. I'm not very. I have a tendency to. Well, I'm like anybody else. too much month at the end of my money. But coincidentally, that's another thing I've got to talk to. I've got to contact the government office, see if I can get that reinstituted. You don't know how much an impact it has on, when you're scratching the bottom, you don't realize how much an impact that something even a few dollars has on your bottom line. As it is, after nearly going completely off the rails with financially speaking a couple of months ago, I do not want to get back in that situation or a similar one ever again. And that means I'm going to have to, bust my hump, work a little harder, be a little more frugal, and work for every advantage I can get, including any government benefits I can. I refuse to feel guilty about being on any government program. I have frequently made my opposition to the welfare state, my principles against it, very clear. I have voted against it. So, essentially speaking, I am the only the only one who should have people like me are the only ones who should have a clean conscience about choosing to use a government service that you were forced to participate in anyway. If I had my druthers, there wouldn't be a welfare state. There wouldn't be a social security system, tapping into our pockets every year. There wouldn't be. If I had my druthers, the taxation system in our country would be dramatically different and dramatically smaller, and so would the federal government. But I don't get my druthers. So I have to make do with what they leave me. Like everybody else, gotta do what I gotta do to survive. This is for Wild Weasel, and the game he and a friend of his are designing as a tabletop role-playing game. And he has been having me draw a lot of different characters. Thing of it is that he has me drawing. He calls them by fairly traditional folklorish names, but the descriptions he gives me. The descriptions he gives do not. Let's put it this way. I do tend to do the same thing. I try to add some new, unique quirk or twist to the folklore. For instance, in Tales of the Questor. But for the most part, when people look at my characters, if I draw a dragon, it's a dragon. If I draw a well, I'll be honest. Well, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't say, because my orcs do not look like anything like the orcs that you see in other popular media. They're green, and they're big, and they talk in Hulk speak, but they look like big basset hounds with big floppy ears and hound dog faces. The goblins are bat people, and I've departed considerably from traditional portrayals in that regard. The centaurs, you could probably say, yeah, that's a centaur, even though their what is normally their human half looks more like an anthro horse person in my version. But I don't exactly stick close. But my unicorns are wildly different. But the trolls, I draw a troll, you go, yeah, that's a troll. I draw a unicorn, yeah, that's a unicorn. Draw a dragon, that's a dragon, yeah. He doesn't quite do the same thing here. These. Is that he and his partner are going a little bit too far out of their way to make their creatures unique. I've been advising them to that effect, but that after a certain point, unique stops being unique and starts becoming unrecognizable. You're free to disagree with me, but I pulled in that. I've been trying to restrain that in my own writing and drawing. I try to add a new spin to things myself, but if you spin things too much, all you've got is spin. And if it's too alien, people are going to pick up the book. people who normally pick up a book. Oh, you know, here's a book about elves. This guy on the cover looks like Legolas. Then they pick up your book and go, who or what the heck is this? You know, you sort of failed in your objective. Made him too alien. There was one writer. He was commenting in one of these books on writing style, and he pointed out he wrote a story once, and he submitted it to a sci-fi anthology, and they sent it back and said, no, we've got no room for fantasy stories. He said, what is this? This is a sci-fi story. It's about people on another planet. And then he looked it over and he realized, first of all, that all the typical tropes of a fantasy novel were there. They were, you know, the main protagonist had some sort of odd, mysterious power, and an eldritch forest, and all this other stuff. And most importantly, he never made any effort. In no place in the story did he indicate in any way that they were on another world, that they were on another planet. You know, you couldn't see the fins of the spaceship, so to speak. You know, and nowadays, simply drawing two moons in the sky is not enough to indicate you're on another planet either. His protagonist was not supposed to be a wizard. He was supposed to be a psionic, mental telekinetic powers. But he never made that distinction. It wasn't an eldritch forest full of fairy creatures. It was an alien forest full of weird alien animals. But again, he didn't make that distinction either. It was too vague. Oh, I beg your pardon. Seriously, I'll trade artwork for a pizza. He got a big old head. Half the reason I take so long with this guy's artwork is because I have to spend so much time trying to visualize what he's talking about. I want you to draw me a mermaid. Okay, a mermaid. And then he proceeds to describe a spitting cobra woman. And I'm like, wait a minute. Can we go over this definition again? Of course, this is me just griping. Part of his job is to do what the customer ordered. I'll give a little input, but at the end of the day, it's got to be something that he's happy with. That's not right either. Drawing the thumbs on the inside of the hands. Yes, he's supposed to have 6 fingers on each hand. Before you ask. Which makes drawing his hands really interesting. That's why I gave him socks, so I wouldn't have to draw 12 toes. There we go. All right. You're talking about the Spider-Man Unlimited movie or whatever. What is the movie? Spider-Man Unlimited? Spider-Man something. Yeah. Spider-Verse, Mary Jane's in it. All right. Maybe the last of the cheesehead's influence is finally dying off. I'm sorry, man. I grew up with Spider-Man. I grew up with him. I mean, I watched as he goes through college. He goes through the high school. He goes through the college thing. He becomes a hero, and he suffers so many losses. And he finally meets the girl, marries her. Big gala event in the comics industry. It was he got married before Superman even thought of asking Lois. Before Superman popped Lois the question, and you know, and me and every other comic book geek out there was rooting for him the whole way through all the things he struggled with, because they were the things that we struggled with, and we wanted to see him get a payoff eventually. But Quesada didn't see it that way. Yeah. I'm sorry, Miles Morales is not Spider-Man. He's a Spider-Man knockoff. He's what happens when people are incapable of being creative. Then other actual creative people have to come along and clean up behind them.
Let's see here. Okay, just give me a second. I'm gonna skip this. I wish they'd quit putting rap music on this list. Hate that crap. Still waiting for the day that rap died. Yeah, cheesehead. Quesada. As in queso. Cheese. I wish Wild Wired Weasel was on, so I could get general approval from him for this. See what he thinks of it. That's the interesting thing. This is proving an interesting challenge. I'm supposed to be drawing these creatures. These creatures are supposed to be distorted yet human-like, and yet I'm having trouble drawing them so that they don't look like an artistic mistake. Doesn't this guy know how to draw human anatomy? That sort of thing. Come on. Come on, move, darn it. Stupid thing. Head just looks too large. I want to try something. Actually, it's the upper head that looks too large. So let's try fixing that. Yeah, that actually works. It's better, actually. It's much better. Shoulders are still a little off. Not quite sure how to correct that, though. I'll have to fiddle with it a little more. But, see. Shapes, shapes, shapes. And, well, I made a mistake there. Undo. Darn it. Oh well. Layer, new layer, nothing I can't fix. And to still put it on the wrong layer. Well, I'll work on it. I'll figure it out later. Alright. instant perspective on the windows. Oops. Edit, undo. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. I don't want to know why this. Here we go. Missed a spot right there. Tiny little error will catch you when you're using these tools. It's kind of annoying sometimes. Few things to add yet. Gonna give him a katana floating over his hands. Maybe mount some other weapons up on the wall up here. Give that a minute. Stop for a second here and rest my brain and my fingers for a second. Starting to cramp with it. All right, Mr. Cartoon Critic, welcome aboard, welcome aboard, welcome aboard. Goodness. Oh, excuse me. Now, so what has it all been with you all? Anything you'd like to talk about? Anything you'd like to throw up in the air? Oh, by the way, I've got 2 new chapters up. 2 new chapters. 1 new chapter of The Great Alicorn Hunt, a short chapter, and a slightly longer chapter of The Rise of Darth Vulcan. Yes, it's been over a year. I got people, when are you going to update? When are you over there yet? Are you going to update? You going to update? You going to update? Don't make me turn this fan fiction around. I'm also putting little notices at the bottom of the chapters, and I may put them at the top of the chapters to let people know that I'm, go over to my other website, check stuff out, check out my PayPal, check out my Patreon, check out my stuff. But hopefully that'll draw a little traffic away. I've been thinking, as I was telling everybody, I'm going to be moving my the books, the collections and stuff, the books that are on kablam.com. I'm going to be moving them to Amazon as soon as I can. I've just got to spruce up the PDFs and upload them to Amazon.com and get an account and everything set up with them. Hopefully that'll generate a little more traffic, a few more purchases, because the reason I went with Kablam.com is because up until fairly recently, Amazon wasn't doing graphic novels in their digital books. Now, they've changed that. So now voila, I'm aboard. I can get on board. I can get my stuff up there. And frankly, they'll have a lot better. They have a lot more eyes, a lot more traffic, and hopefully, I'll get at least a few more sales. I've had some of those books have been up for like 2 or 3. I've made. I don't think I've broken 1,000 sales for all my comics combined. And since I put them up, and that sort of dispirited me, to say the least. And the profit margin on the Amazon books are a lot better too. So those will be transferred. I'm thinking of putting everything on the website over on my Patreon website. Just move everything over to Patreon. All the comics, all the artwork, everything. Just put it on Patreon. Put all the content in one place. Instead of having people come to my website and then they go to PayPal, or they go to Patreon, or they go to this place, or they go to that place. Yeah. I'm still debating over that, and if I do, I don't think I'm going to. I might put everything behind a paywall, a $1 paywall, minimum paywall, or at least most of the stuff. I don't know. I've got to think that over. It's not nailed down. It's not set in stone yet. But putting all my instead of running this website, and instead of trying to run 2 or 3 different websites, trying to get people to come to one website and then go over to another website to maybe become a Patreon patron, or maybe going over to PayPal, and I don't know. There are, from what I understand, there are a lot of people that do, all their business on Patreon. Their artwork and everything is there. I've got to think that over a bit, though. I figure I will have. I will have some content free to view. Other content will be behind a paywall. Not much money, just like I said, the minimum monthly Patreon of $1. I may start buttoning up some of these other sites just to simplify my life. It will save me a lot of headaches on maintaining the website anyway. Just doing it all on Patreon. one thing I think the one thing is that people I've had the forums over the years. I've had the forums get torn down 2 or 3 different times. As I've moved around the web, and people are never happy with that. But I'll look into it. I'm going to think about it for a while. Now, before we go any further, anybody else got any topics they'd like to talk about? Any subjects? Any news of the hour that they want to talk about? Oh, beg your pardon. I'm just waiting for somebody to speak up. Just waiting for somebody. Now, let's see. I'm going to take a minute here. I just take a. What did this do here? What does this button do? Gee, what does this button do? Okay. Let me pull up. Let me see what. Just pull it up a website here. It's. Oof. Yeah, Danny Myers, he's saying he's talking about how he's tired of the mediocre. He's having to deal with a lot of dumb people of late. He's pharmacy calls. We have a script we've been holding for you for 9 days. Today is the last day to pick it up. And he answers, but I was just there last week. I picked up all the others. Why didn't I get that one? Pharmacy goes, we must have missed it. Can you hold it for me till tomorrow then? No, you left it here for 9 days. It's like they got a pull string in the back of their head. Look, I don't know how many of you have ever read it. There's a book out there. It's called The Peter Principle. Most people think it's satire. I think it's straight up. This sociologist, he basically came up with a theory to try and explain why everything is just so bad. Why hierarchies are, it basically says, the Peter Principle basically states, in a hierarchy, everyone is eventually promoted to their level of incompetence. That is to say, they are moved up the ladder until they are in a position where they cannot do the job well. But they're not doing it bad enough to get fired. And so there they stay. And when you get that, among other things, the people that are stuck in a state of mediocrity like that, they're scared to death of losing their job, so they tend to resort to doing everything by the book, even when the book does not cover how something should be done, even when doing it by the book is counterproductive, or even against given rules or instructions by their boss. This is why pretty much any system, in any hierarchy, in any corporation, in any business, you get people. You wonder how they can tie their shoes in the morning. To be fair, let's take something. Let's take that step a little further. As you realize that all these people who are, in the Peter Principle, are making your life difficult. Their life is being made difficult too, because they have to deal with everybody. They have all. They too have countless people in their lives who are living examples of the Peter Principle, and just I think half of that is just. I think half of the Peter Principle is the fact that we're all just dang sick of dealing with each other. We're all sick of dealing with incompetence. Even the incompetent people have to deal with other incompetent people, and it's sapped our will to live. What do you do, Oh, now what is it doing? Now what is it doing? Computer's doing something. I'm trying to figure out what it's doing. Oh, did you see this thing on the news? This was all over the internet. I posted it on my website. This guy, he's an actual rocket scientist. You understand what I'm saying? He helped design electronics and machinery that went on the Mars rovers. That kind of thing. He is an actual rocket scientist, and he has his own website. I subscribed after seeing this. What he did. His name is YouTube /Mark Rober, MarkRober, and apparently they've got some porch pirates in his neighborhood. These people who walk on, they go up and steal stuff off your porch, packages left by UPS and others, UPS, FedEx, and they go up and he even had them on camera. He had security camera. He has security cameras on his front porch, several different angles. Caught them on camera, and he went in and he called the cops and he showed the cops, and the cops said it wasn't, it wasn't worth the effort of trying to investigate. It wasn't worth the effort. Okay, first of all, Deputy Dog. That's a badge on your chest. When you got that badge, you got this job. This is your job. It's not all exciting car chases and guest appearances on Cops. The tiny crap is your job too. And this isn't tiny crap either. This is like people getting electronics, computers, cell phones. This isn't petty theft. This is grand larceny. People are getting things delivered on their porches that cost as much as a car used to. this is not a minor thing. And these people apparently, the footage shows two people with backpacks, a guy and a gal, just happy couple just walking down the street, and they stopped and just walk up to they took his stuff and trotted off with it. And didn't turn it, no furtive crap or nothing. They just walked along. So what he did was build a booby-trapped box. He spent something like 6 weeks working on this thing. It's an electronic device. It had 4 he put 4 smartphones in it, with cell phones with cameras in it, so it would shoot, film in all 4 directions. And it battery powered. He motorized it, and he put it in so that when the box was opened, this cup on top would start spinning and would spray glitter in every direction. The finest arts and craft, multicolored arts and craft glitter he could find. Let me turn this on here for you so you can see it. That's it right there. That's in mid photo right there. And for an extra bonus, he put in a little a little fart smell spray. Practical joke stuff. He stuck it, and after a couple of seconds, after the glitter is sprayed, it waits a couple of seconds, and then about every 5 seconds, a little camshaft comes on, motor turns on, and it goes psst, 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 and sprays fart stink. And I watched the footage. It is hilarious. It gets funnier the longer it goes on, because he used this trap over and over and over. He loaned it to his friends who had been getting robbed too, and they got footage of the footage of all kinds of things. He was very thorough about it, because the cell phones inside that were built into the were built in for the cameras, they were programmed to start filming once the box opened, and after a certain period of time to beam the information up onto up into the cloud, onto the internet where he could download it, just in case he wasn't able to get the camera box back. But he managed to get the camera box back over and over, because these people would go in, they'd steal the box off his porch, they'd run, they'd trot off to their car, set it in the front seat, drive up. It even had a GPS tracker in it, and they would drive a couple of blocks away, park, open the thing, and boof, glitter all over the inside of their car, and then fart stink. For an edge, you could hear these people. Oh man, it recorded their voices and everything. Oh man, what's that smell? Oh man, what is that? Get that out of his car! And he'd find it dumped in a parking lot someplace. He's like, oh man, look at my car. And one guy said, oh man, my girl's gonna get in here and she's gonna be, who the hell, she's gonna see all this because she's gonna be like, who the hell you been riding around with? Who's a girl you been riding around? I'm picturing some girl named Lakeisha with a thing for glitter lipstick. But one of them actually managed to get it all the way home. He got it all the way home, and he set it on his couch. He opened it, boof. He's like, oh man. And apparently he didn't realize that the fart sprayer was going. He came out there with a vacuum cleaner. He's trying to clean up all the glitter, and the cameras are catching everything. Oh man, these people, they let's put it this way, these porch pirates, they get no sympathy. I hope to God he took the footage to the police and said, now you gonna do something about this? Because man, I would have demanded somebody's badge for that. You know, just refusing to do the job because it's, you know, it's too small, you know, too not important. It'd be too difficult. The man had camera footage of the thieves, and you know, and they weren't going to bother. So long as thieves think that you're not going to bother, they'll keep stealing, and they'll keep stealing bigger and bigger. Idiots. Anyway, they. Oh my. But, man, no sympathy, man. Some of these guys were in there saying, oh, you know, they were making suggestions. I love some of the suggestions. One of them said, oh, you know, forget that fart spray, skunk spray. You can get it at, you know, hunting and sports and fishing stores. Hunting and fishing stores. That stuff will never come out. Skunk spray. And another guy said, oh, you know, put out, you know, get rid of the glitter and use some printer toner. Oh man, I've seen spills from, you know, when you spill printer toner, that ain't no sweeping up, you know. It's like, oh man, devastation. I'm like, oh man. The thing is, this guy doesn't do a prank channel. He doesn't do channel with pranks and things like that. He's filming himself while, you know, he's following the fleeing car with contraband aboard. He's looking in the camera. You know, I don't normally do pranks. You know, I don't do a prank channel, so I'm way outside my comfort zone here. Like, dang, you know, if you ever needed evidence that the cops aren't doing their job, you know. If you ever needed evidence that the cops aren't doing their job. I mean, they can go out, they can, you know, there are people out there, they pull these prank channels, they, there was one group of guys, they left out a backpack. They'd have a guy drop a backpack next to a park bench or whatever and walk off. And again and again and again, somebody would grab it and start running. You know, they grab it, put it on, start walking off. And they'd be like, hey, stop! And the guy would start running, and then he'd hit the end of that steel cable that was attached to the backpack. Going! Boom. And they catch hundreds of people like that. Dozens of people a day doing that, and you know, so there it is. Proof, you know, the cops aren't catching people like this. And these people, these pirate porches, these people were doing it like a regular thing. I mean, the first two that they caught, they just a couple of, you know, nicely dressed and everything. You know, they weren't no thugs or. You know, walking around in hoodies, skulking around. They were just a couple, you know, looked like a upwardly mobile couple walking along, had a couple of backpacks on. They were just walking down the street, stealing stuff off of every porch on the street. And they apparently did it as a thing. You got to understand, when you catch you know, these shoplifters aren't just people who are just trying to get a 5-finger discount. Now, when I worked in a pharmacy down in Tennessee, this was one of our problems because it turned out we had people coming in stealing all sorts of stuff, everything from junk jewelry to toothpaste to. I mean, they grab a cube of beer out of the beer and run for the door. But the heavy duty shoplifters would come in and they would fill up their purses and their backpacks and everything else with all the junk they could get. And what it was, we found out, is we were told there was a what's the term? I've just the word skipped a groove on my brain. There was a network. Not a network. What's the word for it? Not a network, not a chain. Can't remember the word. I hate it when that happens. There was a ring chain. There was a shoplifting ring in our city, and what these people do, they would go out these trailer trash people, these ghetto welfare people would go out and they would shoplift whatever they could grab, and then they would take it to the ringleader, who'd pay them a few bucks for whatever bag full of stuff they had, and then they'd take it and they would go and they would take this stuff and go sell it at the local flea market. So that you had one guy who was selling this stuff off at the flea market at discount prices, and he would have like a dozen shoplifters just working their way through town. This was a serious problem. We're talking hundreds, thousands of dollars worth of merchandise. But it's not worth their time to investigate. It's not worth it. Oh, we wouldn't catch him. We wouldn't prove nothing. We'd blah, 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 blah. Maybe you never get the stuff back. That isn't the point. The point is to catch the people doing it and stop them from doing it again by making their life very, very hard for a very long time. But no, they don't. Cops don't see it that way. I remember it wasn't too long ago in Great Britain, they said London cops were asking people to stop reporting crimes because they just couldn't bother to investigate them all. This entire society needs a long, hearty round of ass kicking. Okay, we've got the usual number of people in the channel. Everybody, sound off, sound off. We've got Mr. Cartoon Critic. We've got Archangel Primal Core. We've got... I have no idea who else is here. Ben Sakar, who's AFK. So he's not actually here, just his name. You'd think he was running for Congress. But, who else have we got here? We got Anthrozil Warrior 3. Sounds like a cold medicine. Anthrazil. For all your cold symptoms, Anthrazil. Got a stuffy head? Anthrazil. Fever? Anthrazil. Sore throat? Stuffy nose? Deep chested cough? Just two little tablets of Anthrazil. Won't do a darn thing, but boy does it sound impressive. I took some Anthrazil. Can't you tell? Oh my. Yeah, I'm picking on you. I know I'm picking on you. I'm looking into the possibility of basically posting all my work on the Patreon website from now on. Just move it all over there. Some of it will still be behind a paywall, but some of it will be free to access. Some will be behind a paywall, so on and so forth. Being able to eliminating the cost of the website. It doesn't cost much a year for to keep the website up. But I don't know if it's actually doing me any good. But first of all, it doesn't cost much, but it always seems to manage to hit me at the worst possible time. You need to renew your website. Your card will be charged X amount of dollars in 5 days. But I ain't got enough in there to buy a stick of gum. We're sorry, but that's how it's got to be. Anyway. Plus, might encourage a few more people to start swinging by. I've got my website here, got the PayPal over here, got the Patreon over there, this, that, over here, and over there, and over there, and over there. Oh, the archive DVD. I've got your addresses are on file with me. I've still got to run off a stack of those DVDs to send out, and they're very late, and I do owe everybody an apology for those. It's gonna be a complete archive of it's just basically gonna be the archives of all the strips on a DVD. I'm going to throw in the girls' summer DVD art collection on top of that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the address. I got to run off a DVD and ship it out. The reason they're so late. Part of the reason they're so late is because the HTML and Java code that they used to run on, for whatever impossible to determine arcane reason, no longer works. It no longer works right. And so it's just going to be a straight archive disk. Files and folders. Files, folders, and images. I'm going to burn those, mail them out. There is a DVD burning service that I have already used the DVD burning service for my Girls of Summer DVDs. And they did a good job. Very nicely packaged, and I'm gonna give them the job of this again. Anyway, just basically speaking, having my content scattered in 2 or 3 different locations. I don't know. I'm trying to, I know that there are a lot of artists who put all their stuff on Patreon. Everything there. Of course, a good number of the ones I know of are porn artists. I'm wondering how they get away with it. I thought Patreon wasn't supposed to do porn material. Anyway, but that's still up in the air. I'm still deciding about that. Whether to move everything to Patreon, but I'm leaning more and more to it the more I think about it. First, I've got to get one of the first things I got to do. I got to transfer my books from Kablam.com over to Amazon. Hopefully, generate more traffic for those. They're old. They've been up for at least, they've been up for over a year, been over for a couple of years, some of them. And so, they never generated a lot of traffic. They never generated as much interest as the CDs and DVDs I made. Which was a heartbreaking thing for me. Because I always wanted to be in print. I always wanted to have my comics in a newspaper and have them in books like Garfield, But apparently nobody wants hard copy books anymore. Considering what they charge for them, it's not surprising. We live in a day and age where you can get 1,000 books on a USB thumb drive. So trying to sell them one printed book at a time these days doesn't seem to appeal to a lot of people anymore. Another thing is the price margin. Amazon, the Amazon, the content creator gets around 70% of the sale price. Anybody else, it's the other way around. They get the artist is lucky if they get 10 or 20%. And that's an insane amount. Thing of it is, that model has persisted even though the services that traditional publishers allegedly provide are no longer being provided. You got these people, you got these companies that do print on demand, and they're demanding the same price margins as classical publishers. And the classical publishers were supposed to do the legwork. They were supposed to go out. They were supposed to go out to contact the agents, talk to the stores, do the promotionals, you know, get take your book and make it famous, so that a lot of it would sell. That it would sell a lot of copies. But that's not what they're doing anymore. You got all these companies running a thing where somebody on the far side of the country downloads a PDF or a GIF file to their computer. They push a button and post it on the website, and the next, they're still demanding the lion's share of the money that the customers pay for the book, even though they're contributing less and less to the actual making of the book. So more, but Amazon.com changed that. So the content creators are the ones getting most of the pay for it. So even if my sales remain low, I'll still be getting at least a little bit more money. But they get way. But it's also Amazon gets way more eyes than anybody else. So anyway, that's my agenda. Yeah, that's my question. Is that books based on fanfics? That's like saying, please sue me. The farthest I've gone is that I've started posting on my fanfic sites that go over to my Patreon and check out my regular stuff. That's as close as I'll come to it. But printing fan fictions and selling them, that's you're just hoping that you won't be noticed. If you start making any significant amount of money, you will be noticed. The guy that wrote, the fan fiction I talk about a lot is Past Sins, which is where I got the ideas for my Nyxverse stories. Past Sins is a fan fiction of My Little Pony, and the guy that wrote it published it. And I am at a loss as to, I haven't heard anything since, but I am at a loss as to how he's managed to keep getting away with it, because Hasbro has been tighter than a frog's rear end about it, about that sort of thing. I really messed up that metaphor, but okay. Now, okay, okay, we got 7 people in channel. I'm wondering if Wild Wired Weasel is here. Are you here, my man? Just wanted to show you how what I've done with. Let me fool you. I'll just show you. I'll show them all. I'll show everyone. I'll show them all, man. They called me mad. They called me crazy. All because I went out in public and stuck Jello down my pants. But now who's laughing? Everybody on Facebook and YouTube. But I'll show them. Yep, okay. I don't know where that came from, and I don't know where it was going. I figured I'd better hop off now before it went too far. Okay. So, Wild Warrior take this. Okay, there's a few things to add here. I've still got to add the starscape in the background. Let's put that in this. I might as well do that now. Come on. Come on, computer. Clicky, clicky. Clicky, clicky! A few other things to add there yet. This is just the first one. Got 3 others after this that he's still waiting for. I'm going to work on. Try and get those moving on. I'm going to add. I've also got to add his scars and his skin pattern. I'll have to look up the notes again. He's supposed to have stripes, I believe, like a tiger. But I've got to look that up again. Makes me think this picture makes me think of this meme that used to be all over the web. Several pictures. First picture is a skinny Buddha statue. And another skinny starving Buddha statue. Another skinny Buddha statue. Then a great big fat Buddha statue. Nom 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 nom. I nearly peed myself the first time I saw that. Pardon. They called me mad. They called me insane. They called me Maurice. Boom, diddy boom, diddy boom, diddy boom, diddy boom, diddy boom, diddy boom, 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 diddy boom, diddy boom, diddy boom, diddy boom, 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 chum, ba-doom, boom, 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 ba-doom, 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 dum, dum, biddy boom, biddy boom. I don't know why I'm doing that. Just am. Okay, let's stop that for now. Okay, it's good enough. All right. Okay, it's been about 3 hours. I've been at this. I think I'm going to go ahead and call it for the evening. I'll pick it up tomorrow. I'm going to try and log on at about 4 p.m. I'm thinking I'm going to make it my regular, like I've been saying, I'm trying to make it my regular schedule, my regularly scheduled program hour, 4 p.m. And we'll pick up from there. I'll do some more work on the homunculi drawings for Mr. Wild Wild Weasel. Got Wild Wild Weasel. Get the wild, wild weasel. And we'll go from there. Right now, I'm tired. I'm very tired. And I'm also getting seriously hungry. I need dinner. So I'm gonna make some soup. I have no idea how long it would take to post all my web's comics on. Well, let's see from there. I don't know. I don't know whether this is what I'm trying to decide whether moving everything all to my Patreon site will make things easier or harder. Whether it will make things easier, work better, or will it undo the progress I made? I've made mistakes in the past that have cost me. Because one of the big things that has it's pinched me hard is the fact that I switched from doing DVDs and CDs to trying to sell hard copy books, and the sales for those have been abysmal. But I was, I was still convinced at that point that unless you had been published in paper, then you weren't a real cartoonist. Sad state of affairs, that. And the consequence was that my income took a hit. By the time I reconsidered it, I had new problems with the HTML code on the discs weren't working anymore, and my production rate had slowed down, and getting problems with this, problems with that. And my self-promotional efforts weren't stirring a stump for nothing. So I've got to tread carefully. I don't want to torpedo myself accidentally in the process of trying to improve the circumstances. Like I said, okay, it is 2:55 now, and I'm going to go ahead and shut down. I want to thank you all. Okay, we got an audience. We had a grand sum total of, at maximum level, we had 8 people. We now have 6 people. And I want to say thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for your support, for following the comics, for your donations, your commissions, your pledges, your voice of support when the artist went on a crying jack, and whenever I've gone on a bad mood streak, you guys have been there to try and cheer me up. Thank you. But okay, for now, it's time for me to go and fix my dinner and probably go straight to bed. Not that I will, but that I probably should. So, thank you again, and y'all have yourself a real good night.